Look out across the world's oceans on any given day, and you'll see thousands of massive vessels moving the raw materials keeping global industries alive. For Beijing, the math behind this traffic is a daily vulnerability. Right now, 80% of China's oil imports and 2/3 of its total marine trade rely entirely on a single shipping lane. Most energy flowing from the Middle East to East Asia funnels through a specific geographic corridor, the Strait of Malacca. At its tightest point, this waterway is barely 2.8 kilometers wide, forcing massive convoys to navigate a gap narrower than many inland rivers. If a geopolitical conflict were to break out over Taiwan or the South China Sea, any naval force controlling this passage could immediately interdict the fuel shipments required to keep the Chinese military and economy running. The second largest economy on Earth has threaded its entire industrial capacity through a geographic bottleneck it does not physically control. Chinese strategists are acutely aware of this exposure. In 2003, Chinese leader Hu Jintao officially diagnosed this strategic weakness, coining the term the Malacca Dilemma. Over the next 2 decades, Beijing spent billions trying to bypass this vulnerability. They constructed overland pipelines from Russia and Myanmar and funded a network of commercial ports across the Indian Ocean known as the String of Pearls. But these alternatives cannot handle the sheer physical volume required to run a superpower. Overland pipelines move only a fraction of the 15 million barrels of oil China consumes daily. The rest must still travel by sea. Now, that maritime dependency is facing a direct physical challenge. A rival power is actively building a military and commercial outpost right at the western entrance of the strait. The theoretical blockade Beijing has feared for over 20 years is taking the shape of a permanent fortress, and it is being built by India. Geography handed India a natural barrier across the Bay of Bengal. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands span 700 kilometers, creating a wall dominating the northern approaches to the Malacca Strait. The southernmost point, Great Nicobar Island, sits barely 150 kilometers from Indonesia, positioned directly above the 6-degree channel. For decades, India left this island largely undeveloped. That changed in 2021 with the launch of an 81,000 crore rupee infrastructure initiative. This chart outlines the scale of the Great Nicobar project, detailing a commitment to transforming the island across 3 implementation phases through 2047. At the military level, India is expanding its naval air station, INS Baz. The runway is being extended to 10,000 feet, providing the necessary tarmac to launch and recover frontline fighter jets like the Sukhoi Su-30 MKI. Alongside fighter squadrons, the base will host advanced maritime patrol aircraft. Platforms like the Boeing P-8I Poseidon specialize in anti-submarine warfare, effectively stripping the stealth advantage from any naval vessels operating in the eastern Indian Ocean. These assets are managed by the Andaman and Nicobar Command. It is India's only integrated tri-service command, consolidating Army, Navy, and Air Force operations under a single banner to eliminate communication delays during a crisis. By combining long-range air power, deep-water naval facilities, and integrated command structures on a remote island, India has constructed an unsinkable aircraft carrier. Every vessel approaching the strait now sails directly through India's monitoring network. The military buildup is joined by an equally massive commercial endeavor. A core component is a deep-water port at Galathea Bay, documented here as the International Container Transshipment Terminal. Utilizing a natural harbor exceeding 20 meters deep, this facility will process 16 million container units annually. Currently, India loses hundreds of millions of dollars annually by relying on foreign ports in Singapore and Colombo to transship its cargo. The Galathea Bay terminal is designed to recapture that domestic trade and directly compete with those established hubs. This dense layer of civilian maritime activity provides operational cover. A bustling international transshipment hub inherently requires massive coastal radar networks, high-traffic communications, and constant surface patrols to function. India is establishing a commercial anchor that captures immense logistics revenue, while simultaneously positioning its surveillance assets at the gateway it needs to monitor most. Beijing has considered alternative routes to bypass this bottleneck, specifically the Sunda and Lombok Straits in southern Indonesia. But diverting bulk cargo through these passages adds up to 3,000 kilometers to the journey, sharply increasing both fuel costs and transit time. Even if Chinese planners accept that severe logistical penalty, the geographic placement of Great Nicobar complicates the detour. The operational range of India's upgraded air assets allows them to track vessels navigating those backup lanes as well. Political alliances can shift, and defense treaties can be renegotiated, but a deep-water port carved into a shoreline and an airfield paved with thousands of tons of concrete establish facts on the ground that cannot be easily undone. By placing these assets directly adjacent to the shipping lanes, India cuts its reaction time in a crisis to near zero. They do not have to deploy a fleet across the ocean to monitor a threat. The threat must sail past their front door. By fortifying the entrance to the Malacca Strait, India has converted its geographical inheritance into a permanent strategic lever. It ensures that the primary energy lifeline of the Chinese economy now flows through a corridor under the constant watch of the Indian Navy.